All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Lorcana Chats. I am Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and with me today I have the two hosts of the popular Lorcana. Oh my gosh. You think that's the one word I could pronounce correctly? Lorcana YouTube channel, Inkborn Heroes. Hey guys,
Hey,
how's it going?
it's going well. It's
Pretty
going
good.
really well. Yeah,
Good,
thanks for
good.
having us. I'm really excited to be taking part.
Oh, well, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Y'all kind of want to give a little bit of introduction about yourselves?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Go ahead,
No, you
Charlie.
do it. You do it.
Well, we're two people. I'm Matheus, and
I'm
we have
Charlie.
Charlie
Yes.
here as well. As you said, we're both from Inkborn Heroes. It's a channel all about trying to bring the casual players, a little bit of family-oriented players
Yes.
from Lorcana. This is Lorcana. And I don't know much what to say about us. I suppose if I do talk a little bit of background, a little bit, we do work in the game industry. So I think that's part of the appeal looking at Disney and have worked at Disney projects before as well in video games. It was kind of one of the things that were bringing us towards Disney Locana
Yes.
and the
Yeah,
channel, right?
absolutely.
And also, obviously, the love for parks, Disney movies, everything you can imagine that you would expect from people that are content creating
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
for Disney Locana,
And then
right?
we kind of turned that passion for Disney and that love for Lorcana into a YouTube channel. That's kind of where we started. So we started doing YouTube content at the end of last year. I think it was like December 27 or something. And then from that, it spawned an Instagram account. We never planned to have Instagram, but
Mhm.
we ended up having an Instagram. And now I think more people know us for the Instagram than the YouTube.
It's a mix all over the place.
Yeah.
We did have other platforms
Yeah.
as well, but I was telling Charlie it would be so hard to actually between us take care of all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
So we are
Yeah,
sticking to
yeah.
YouTube and Instagram. Obviously, we run some posts on Facebook, but that's not the big priority.
Mhm.
But I think it's just
Okay.
trying to cover as much as we can of the subject. We love following everything straight away as soon as the news
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
out. So that's kind of part of what we do as well. But that's
Okay,
kind of a
cool.
summary, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, no, that's perfect. We'll talk a little bit more about the channel and the content here
Yeah.
after a little bit. One of the first things I like to do though is to kind of get the my guest's origin story with Lorcana.
Okay.
Um, so I'd love to hear from both of y'all kind of how you learned about the game, how you got into the game, when you got into the game, that kind of
Yeah.
Yes.
stuff.
It's a funny one, right? So again, going back to being in the game industry, we do, and again, being passionate about Disney. One day at work, a friend of ours, one of the designers, actually said there's a new trading card game coming out, like Disney Lorcana,
Yeah.
and
And I
we
think
never
that
played any trading card game before.
Yeah, and I think that was right after the initial announcement to D23. So it was like way back.
Yes, was in the
And
beginning.
he
Mm-hmm.
knew we were Disney fans. And he was like, "Hey, they're coming out with this Disney trading card game. That's
Mhm.
like surely that's really exciting for you guys." And
Yeah.
we were like, "Trading card games? That's not really our thing." So we
You're like
kind of
Pokemon? What?
yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of we'd heard about it. It was
yeah,
like it was in our minds, but
yeah.
we never really considered playing it. And then the following year, it was after the first chapter had been released, then people started to really get hyped about it. And I think
Mhm.
Matheus just went down the rabbit hole one afternoon. He started watching all the how to play
I was
videos.
probably just bored at work, and I was like, you know what? I typed in Disney Lorcana. There was this
Yeah,
article
yeah.
on Polygon, one of the first articles, and I
Oh yeah.
think for my end, I do a lot. I like collecting things, right? So I was approaching more from that aspect. I was like, look at those cards. They're very pretty. They look super cool. So I was approaching more like that, and I think
Yeah.
Charlie saw as well. And we don't have a hobby, to be honest. We're very boring people. So I think we were looking
I
for
don't know about
something to do.
that.
Honestly, we were looking for something to do. We're new to Canada at the point because we were living in the UK before.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was kind of finding a way to connect to other people around us via hobby.
Yeah,
So
but
everything merged
that
in
was
a
like
good
never
way.
the intention, and
It was,
it was
but it
kind of
happened.
it was back in the Wild West days. Like I
Mm,
think we started in October of
mm,
2023,
that's
and
right.
like Matheus went down the rabbit hole and then immediately joined all the Facebook groups,
Yeah.
and we were like, how do we get product? Because there was no product anywhere. I'm
Mm,
sure you
Right.
remember those
Yep.
days
Yep.
fondly. So we like in the Facebook groups, we found a guy in Montreal, and he was like, "Oh, I've got all the starter decks, but they don't have any boosters, but you can buy them for like $30 or something." So we
yeah.
like literally the day we discovered about like Lorcana,
Yes.
really, we drove like an hour. We met this guy in a car park, and
It was
he
creepy, but it was
yeah,
my
he was like
Lorcana.
It's
selling
like
starter
you
decks
kind of
outside.
like, okay, stay in the light, stay in the light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like we went pretty as soon as we decided we were gonna collect it and
Yeah.
play it, we got the starter decks. We got home at like 11 o'clock at night. Matheus sat me down in front of all the how to play videos, and we played for like a few
So
hours.
that's kind of what it is, right? So there was that, and then meeting other people and the interest of the game. But I think they straight the next step of that, right? I think we in the past I would do streaming for video game, like nothing big
Mm-hmm.
on Twitch, more about playing survival horror games and stuff like that. That was long ago. So in back of my mind, I think I always wanted to do the content creation at one point. So Lorcana came at the right time, and I think we met some people that had a similar interest.
Mm-hmm.
So at first, I don't even know if people know, but at first we were 4 people. So it was me,
Yeah.
Charlie, Shari, and Eric. We were like
Yeah.
a group of friends that we met via Lorcana. But I think that ended up dissipating a little bit just because we realized quite quickly that we were behind, a year behind all the other content creators, right? So Inkborn Heroes is quite new as a channel. So for us, we knew that if we did want to catch up and actually get out there, we had to put a lot of effort. And we realized the other 2 people didn't have the time, unfortunately. So at that point, we said, look, I think it will make more sense because we're a couple, right? We live in the same place.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to work in the right pacing, doing the things that we like. So now it's us, like, well, for the past 10 months, it has been us, right? Since ever,
Yeah.
pretty much. But that's kind of how everything came together, I believe, is the passion for Disney and wanting to find a hobby and then wanting to do content creation, right?
Yeah.
And then the other platforms were slowly coming in. I think really one thing that I like mentioning is the whole flow of how we do that. So I think Instagram was very important as a method to filter and make people knowledgeable, give the knowledge to the people about our channel. So it's kind of create contents to point them to our YouTube channel. And it worked very well so far, right?
Yeah.
Creating that connection between you understand, you learn what we're doing, then we access our YouTube channel for all the information. And as we do that as well, we realized that we were lacking the online. We thought, even though there's a lot of cool content, we don't see as many guides, right? We don't see as many things that we were looking for when we started. We're like, I want a very specific thing, let's say, about bodyguards, a very specific thing about guide to singing. And that's kind of where we saw the gap, right? We saw we can do a lot of those contents.
Yeah,
well.
and it kind of goes back to those days where you just couldn't get product anywhere. So like being new to TCGs, we kind of had done our research and we found one shop in Montreal. They had a weekly league, and if you attended the league, you got 1 pack of first chapter, and if you won, you got an extra pack of first chapter. And it was, well, we didn't know what a league was. We didn't know what a local game store was. We didn't know like what the formalities of it were. So we were like searching before we went. We couldn't find any information online. We're like naturally very anxious people anyway. Yeah. So we went to the league. We attended. We had a really nice time playing with our like starter decks, getting crushed by people with like meta decks because people had already by October they'd already running the
first time we saw Be Prepared, right? I remember Charlie and I was always joking about it. Literally, when someone used Be Prepared against our starter deck, and I look at Charlie, I call him, and I said, "Look at this card! Look at what this card does! We need this card!" It was crazy.
I can imagine.
Was kind of like. Yeah, that was the kind of what made us feel like we wanted to create content, because we wanted to create the content that we would like to have had when we started in the game, like the how to go to a local game store, like as Matheus said, the mechanics of things. So it happened slowly. It was more, we kind of saw a gap in kind of the content that was around. We had that passion and interest to create content, and we loved the game so much. So it just kind of, after those first couple of months, we started making the content, and I think it's worked out really well. It's been a really fun adventure that I don't think we would have expected.
Not at all. And I think it merges with other passions, right? Because we like traveling. I mean, this is completely unrelated, but we like traveling, and we'll always do vlogs, right, about our trips. And then Charlie will be the one editing the video editing. So he had the skills of video editing. On my end, I like doing the graphics. I like doing the graphic design. And so we found things that even if it wasn't Disney Lorcana, will probably apply to something else. Yeah. It just happens to be something that we are very passionate about, which is Disney. So it made sense. It almost fell in a way that made sense at the time.
Yeah.
And we didn't know how much to expect. But now, exactly. And we felt so passionate that it's so weird now imagining not doing that day to day. Yeah. So it just happened.
No, that's great. It's funny. I talked to a lot of content creators that they kind of had the same kind of, starting out, making content that they wanted to see, versus like, oh, well, I'm just going to do gameplay or something. It's like,
Mhm.
no, I'm new to this. I want other people that are new to this to understand these same things without having to necessarily go through the whole process. Because,
Yeah,
some people don't have an LGS. They can't, go and play in a league. And so they're like, well, what's it like playing in a league? I don't know,
yeah, yeah.
So no, it's really cool, and I appreciate the content that y'all put out there. It's great. I love all the the deck guides and everything, especially. I've been a little bit behind on Azurite Sea, so I've enjoyed
Mm.
catching up through some of y'all's videos,
Oh,
y'all's
that's
recent
great.
ones.
Thank you. Yeah,
So,
thank you.
um, so you mentioned some streaming before. Is it so? This is the very first like actual like YouTube content creation for y'all, or
Yes.
Well, apart from
Yeah.
the
So
trips, right? The
yeah. So like
vlogs.
Matheus said, we like he said we don't have a hobby. I would say our hobby is probably traveling.
Yeah,
So
okay, fair
okay,
enough. Okay.
and like
okay,
when I say traveling, Matheus will spend like months planning it. He'll have
That's
like
true.
the perfect itinerary, and then
yep.
we'll do it. And there was just one trip. It was actually we went to Japan in 2017,
17.
I think.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it's such a beautiful country. There's so many amazing things to see. And I was like, the pictures just don't do it justice. So I started taking like just on my iPhone, just little videos. And then when I got back, I edited it all together. I put like a soundtrack over it. And then since then, up until we started doing Inkborn Heroes, I would every trip we would do, I would make video, I would record videos and edit it together. So that was kind of like my foray into like video editing.
Mm.
And like I have 25 subscribers on
That's
my
it.
personal account, and most of them are my
Okay,
family.
okay.
But
Just
it
a
was
little bit of difference between the two,
yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
But it
So
was never the goal to
it
have
was
subscribers.
exactly.
It
I
was
was
just a library.
putting the videos there
Yeah,
more so we can look back at them. I can share
exactly.
with my mum
Right,
because
right.
often we're not living in the same
Not a
country.
travel vlog or anything.
No,
So,
no,
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 no.
no. And then yeah, Matheus did some streaming as well.
And the streaming was,
Yeah,
as I said, it was again just looking to do something in my free time back when we were in the UK.
yeah.
And usually, I'm a big fan of Pokemon. I'm a big fan of horror games. So it's
mhm.
kind of streaming the games I like, but it was never serious either. We
Yeah.
did reach, or I did reach affiliate on Stitch. On
Twitch
Stitch,
partner,
Twitch,
Oh,
Twitch,
yeah,
Stitch,
Twitch partner.
Stitch, yeah.
Stitch.
Too much
Okay,
Lorcana
what
on
am
the
I
brain.
talking about?
Stitch,
Exactly.
Twitch, yeah.
But that's kind
Yeah.
of where I stopped as well. I think at that point because it was never a plan. It was just for friends around the world to see me playing, and
yeah,
Right,
it was
right.
never a goal. I think.
yeah,
But
for
channel
sure.
wise, is just the one with the trips, and now Inkborn Heroes.
Mhm.
But that was our first experience with that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what have y'all found is like one of the most challenging things about creating a channel and keeping it going and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things is motivation.
Mm.
Obviously, I think a lot of people know that creating content it takes time, especially if you want to like really, you know, make the quality good as well. So, like finding the motivation to keep doing that. At first, it was kind of and it's one of the reasons we went from a 4 to a 2. I think it's because like there was maybe a kind of a lack of motivation on some of the sides, and even us when we first started, we were really like having to force that motivation to create the videos, and it's kind of over time. One of the really cool things, and I'm sure it's the same for you, is it's actually the community that comes to your content is kind of the thing that makes it motivating to do. And like we've had a couple of times where we've said like, do we really want to keep creating content? Like it is a lot of effort. It takes up a lot of our free time at this point. But then we think like we have this like this amazing community who come back and watch our videos. Like we get some like crazy nice comments. Like someone said that where their cozy YouTube channel or their cozy Lorcana channel, and it's like things like that. It's like
Nice.
okay, like people are appreciating the effort. So I definitely think like you've got to have the right mindset because I think being consistent, releasing content like on a consistent schedule that's high
Mhm.
quality, that's like interesting for people, that does require a surprising amount of work. But yeah,
It's pretty much the same answer, but I tend to get very political, so I always have to be a little bit careful with my answers as well. But I think part of the motivation is also sometimes we wish we had more visibility or more transparency from the developers, right? So we can get more
Mm-hmm.
access and be able to actually communicate in the right way. So for me, Mateus personally, some of the challenges is that. So I'm like, are we ever going to get to a point where I feel like they trust us and we can trust them in the equal manner to the point that we can grow even further. Because I feel like the next step is getting the respect, is getting the appreciation and pushing further, right? But that comes with time. Obviously, there's so many content creators out there as well. You have to get to know other people. You have to get to know the other creators, right? But that for me is part of where it touches the motivation, because it's a circle, right? It just goes always, right?
And I think because there was obviously the whole North America versus EU, which like started out as a fun Twitter thread, right. And it's like it's really morphed over time. And I think there was like a moment there where Matheus was like, you know what, it is kind of like the EU get everything and North America gets nothing, and like do we even want to be involved in the channel? And but I think like just speaking to other content creators and recontextualizing it for ourselves, and we realized that actually that shouldn't be the motivation for releasing content. It should be about creating content, A, because we enjoy it, but B, because there are people out there who also enjoy consuming it. So I think that is always the thing that helps us. We always try and kind of use the community we've built, the people who watch the videos. It creates this very 100%. Nice positive feedback loop for us, where it's like, it is all worth it, all of the work at the end of the day. It is.
And I think it's also about removing our expectations, right? I think sometimes we expect and we want so much, but it's not the time. It's okay. And we don't have to have that expectation. Let's focus on what is important, as Charlie said. And I think we are slowly, as a brand, I do like to call us a brand, because I think we use the mental approach when we're doing that as well. But as the brand Inkborn Heroes, I think we're building this really special community. And I think the fact that we are a gay couple, so minority, if I can say like that, like this as a quote, I feel like it does open doors for other people in similar situations. And we've been seeing the growth of our Discord channel, how precious it has been, and how, at least I would like to believe, they feel safe to be themselves there. They feel safe to actually vocalize what they're feeling. And for me, that's the biggest part, because it wasn't something we thought at first. I think it just naturally, organically happened, that because we are part of that group, they can feel like they are as well. And that's amazing. That for me is my favorite part.
No, that's amazing. It's, I really love, it's one of the things I really love about this game is it seems like there is such an open and welcoming community regardless of where you turn. I mean, yes, it has its problems. Of course, every community does, but, it seems like, there's always like a place for people to find that's kind of home for them. And maybe it's the Discord for y'all's channel, or the main Discord, the big Ravensburger one, or, there's so many different options out there and so many different groups already, in just the short, year and couple of months that this game has really been around. That the community has just grown up so much to be able to, to have that as kind of a foundation that, we want to make sure that stays in place. We want everybody to come and enjoy this game, regardless of who they are, where they're from, if it's their first TCG, it doesn't matter. We want everybody to enjoy it and love it as much as we do. And y'all you guys' channel, I mean, it just, I have to say, okay, I have to get it out of the way. The production quality, really good.
Thank you very much.
I have to say, the first time I saw it, I was like, because you look at some of the channels and they've got smaller subscriber counts and stuff, and I looked at y'all's and I was like, wow, they've really got a lot. And so I started watching the videos and I was like, yeah, I can see why. I mean, not only is the content itself great, but just the production quality, the camera work, the graphics, the editing on it, the way it's it's all seamless. It's great, by the way. I just wanted to,
we really appreciate. And I think that there's nothing wrong with different types of the quality, right? I think for us, it goes back to the motivation, right? At least for me, I speaking to myself, if we cannot put something at the level of quality, I don't feel that passion and that burn. I think, unfortunately, that's how I feel. And a good example is I feel like sometimes we do come up with some video ideas that we want to do, but we cannot come up with the graphics or how we can present that on the screen just yet. So a lot of times we put back in the backlog until we can come up on the paper, right, on our heads, ways to communicate the idea that we want in the way that we want. So it is I don't know, maybe I'm overcomplicating what I'm trying to say, but it's part of the passion for me is part of being able to deliver something that I can feel very proud about. And I think that helps me wanting to do it. because I know that it looks so cool. It's almost like a portfolio piece in a way, right? It's my geeky side, maybe my game design
Yeah.
side, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of just kind of learning as we went. Like I
Exactly.
knew
Hmm.
how to use Premiere Pro, but I knew how to like put one clip after another clip and then
Yeah,
put
yeah.
audio over the top of it,
Transition,
and
drag and
maybe
drop. Yeah,
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And boom.
and maybe color grade it. But then when we like actually started doing videos like this, like at first, I don't know why we made this decision, but we didn't want to have like us talking to the camera and then putting graphics over us. We were like, we want to make
Mhm.
the content's not about us, it's about communicating things in the kind of the clearest way we can for people. And we were really inspired by the videos Ravensburger had done,
Yes.
like introducing the mechanics of the game. Like we'd
Mhm.
watched those ourselves and we felt like we had a good enough grasp. So it was a lot of like looking at that and being like, okay, they have this like kind of animation that they've done, like let me see if I can just recreate that myself in Premiere. So I was just doing little exercises like that. And then over time, it's just kind of I've learned more skills. Have got to like, because people have mentioned the editing before. The first time we do like a new type of video, it's difficult. But then
Mhm.
I'm a UX designer is my day job, so I'm a very lazy designer. So every time I do something, I kind of create a template, and then
That's
that's
being
something I
smart.
can,
That's not lazy. It's
yeah,
being
yeah.
smart.
But
Yeah.
Yep.
it's something that you can just reuse over and over again.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, we have this like we have this like floating cards animation. Now we can just replicate it and we can
Yeah.
drop like different assets in. So
Mhm.
a lot of it is templated. Like when we do a gameplay video, we have a template now, and
Mm.
like over time, I just get better at templating things as well. So like before, I was hand doing transitions every time. Now I have a
Yeah.
template for those transitions. So that's kind of been part of the journey. So just trying to make it more and
Mm.
more efficient. So I spend less time editing
Yeah.
and more time doing like the fun
And,
stuff.
and it helps the format of this Lorcana, like the cycles, right, of releases. It means that
Mhm.
every new set we can repeat the content, but focusing on that
Right.
new set,
Yeah.
right? So we have
Right.
templates for the enchanted card list. We have templates for starter decks. We have templates for, well, less so for new guides, but that's
Yeah.
the one that probably takes longer. But we can always replicate hidden Mickeys. So next set I'll do another hidden Mickeys
Yeah.
Mhm.
video and so on. So it's very easy on the sense.
Yeah.
But one thing you said that I find interesting as well is, as you said, we it's very little the quantity of videos where we show our faces, but we also realize that some of the people in the community start asking for that. So that's when we
Mhm.
start doing the gameplay. Initially, our gameplays didn't
Right.
have our little
Oh, the
videos,
little
Yeah.
right?
picture in
So
the
it felt
corner. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So we're
Yeah.
starting to connect more. I think it is important as well if you do want to build the connection. They want to see who is behind the screen, right? I think
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
news video helps with that
Yeah.
as well, because the news video is literally 1 hour of you looking at us. I can't even believe people watch that,
Yeah.
but it's 1 hour of us talking about a card. So it does start to make sense for us, I think. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and and it's funny, you talk about you can't believe people watch that kind of stuff. It's funny to talk to people and hear the different stories about how they consume our content. Um,
yes,
I know I release this as an audio podcast as well, and so I have people, listening over there. But there's a lot of people, come to find out, that will put on a YouTube video and they're not actually watching the video. It's just like playing while they're doing other
Mm.
stuff, or they have it, their headphones going. So it's basically like an audio podcast for them, but
Yeah.
they're listening while they're doing other stuff. You know, and there's something comforting about hearing the same intros or the same voices, time after time. It's like you feel like you get to know people a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
that's true.
And like you said, build up that community, build up the regular listeners, the people that, discover you and are, crazy about watching previous videos. And
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. You know, no, I mean, it's great. It's really cool to, to be able to build up that community around your content.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I know firsthand how difficult that could be. And I'm definitely still very, very early on in the content creation cycle. But, it's cool to look at channels like y'all's and see all the feedback and, look at the Discord and see everything happening over there. To kind of be aspirational and be like, okay, I could do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, I could get there. But, I know that's one thing that a lot of creators struggle with, though. You mentioned the motivation and
Mm.
time and everything, but it's hard when, you look and the numbers aren't going up, and it's easy to say, oh, don't focus on the numbers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just to say, don't worry about the subscriber count, don't worry about how many people are, leaving comments. But it can be very discouraging. And
Yes.
especially, if you're somebody that's new to the Lorcana community, new to the TCG community, all that kind of stuff, it can be a little overwhelming. So I'm curious, do y'all have any kind of advice or recommendations for anybody either wanting to get started with content creation or, maybe somebody
Mm,
who's having a little bit of a tough time and struggling with it right now?
yeah. I don't know about like advice or recommendations. I hate giving advice, but I can certainly say things we've learned along
Yeah.
the way. Like
Mhm.
we've learned a lot in the time we've been doing it. But I think like the biggest learning for us is just like knowing who your audience is. And I think this is a little bit, again, like my day job is user experience, and it's all about like knowing who is going to be playing the game that we're making. So applying that same kind of logic to the content we're creating. Initially, we didn't really have an idea who we were going to make content for. We did like some box openings, we did gameplay videos. We were kind of all over the place, but kind of as we were releasing content, we were kind of seeing that it was attracting a certain type of audience, and that is the kind of people who are new to TCGs, people just getting into Lorcana, and kind of people who wanting to kind of progress maybe to the next step of their understanding of the game. So that was a big turning point for us when we kind of identified that that was our audience. Then we can kind of like gear our content more toward that. And I think having tools, like using the tools available to you, I think a lot of people kind of release content and never check the analytics. But there's like
Yeah.
so much information available to you
We're all about
in,
analytics, I
yeah,
think, maybe too much, because we can fall under the same rabbit hole that is said, right? You're
yeah,
seeing numbers. Sometimes some videos won't do as well, and you're questioning
yeah,
why is it not doing well? Is it because maybe it's not something people want to watch anyway, even if it
yeah,
was in a different channel? Or is it because we did something not as good as the last one?
yeah,
So that question is always on the back of the mind, unfortunately. And I think even as we grow, we're always trying to get to the next level,
yeah.
and we always feel disappointed. It's
And
from my point of view, right? I mean, what I mean by that, I just want to go back to what you said, right? We're looking at numbers. Maybe your channel is new, and then you're seeing 100 views in a video that is there for a month or whatever. Then you are a channel that exists for longer, and now you're seeing 1,000. That 1,000 doesn't feel good either, even if you're there longer. You see what I mean? Because as you grow, you're expecting that growth to be exponential, and sometimes some of those videos will not hit the mark. So that anxiety, at least on my end, always exists anyway. It's normal to feel like that.
yeah,
I think what we try to remind ourselves is, again, uh, is there a purpose behind the video at the end of the day? Can that 1,000 people or that 100 people value what you did? Did you do your best? And I think part of that motivates us in that sense.
yeah.
But numbers will always be a numbers game at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think Matheus and I are yin and yang, where he's
Very
like kind
different.
of obsessing over the fact the video didn't do well. For me, it's more like trying to figure out why didn't it do well. Was
Yes.
it, and again, that's where the analytics come in. You
Mm,
can like, was it because of the time we released it?
mm,
Is it because of the structure of the video? And you can use analytics to look at things, and that was a big thing early on for us. So we did a gameplay video. It's not on our channel anymore because I was embarrassed by it. I hated it, but we had this structure, and there was a lot of stuff at the beginning before we ever got to the gameplay, and we just looked at the charts. Like the video got barely any views, but the views it did get just like tanked straight away. So I was like, okay, that's something we can learn from. There was too much fluff at the beginning. So we tried another format, and we kind of got more like quickly into the gameplay, and it was like, okay, it got better. And then we started just looking at other YouTube channels, and like not necessarily just in the Lorcana space, but looking at things like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, and how are they structuring their videos. And we saw like, oh, a lot of times they'll put like clips of what happened during the gameplay at the front, kind of like a preview
A
of what's
little
to come.
teaser. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, okay, let's just try that and see what happens. And I said, okay, now the retention's a bit better. And it's just like using the data as much as you can. And I think it can be disheartening. We for sure had that time early on where it just wasn't going the direction we wanted to go. But I think try not to see it as a bad thing. If a video doesn't do well, try and use it as an opportunity to see how can I do
that's
the
what
next
I
one
meant.
better.
I meant more because you used the example of new channels, right? I think what I try to say is I think even the person that is in the best position with their channel, depending of the profile that you are, the personality that you might always feel disheartened because you want more. We always want more, right? As human beings, which is unfortunate. So what I wanted to say more is don't try to just think on that. You are doing so much better than the last time, right? You're growing and you are identifying. I think it's important because you said about tips, right? Or recommendations. I think it is important to, as much as we're looking at those things and seeing the fluctuated number, it's very important as well to remember where you were before and what you learned in the process. Is as important as what you have now? Because I think you do feel proud of what you're doing, right? Because you're growing naturally. You are out there, you are learning from it, and it can only get better from there. And I think another thing that depends of your type of profile that helps me a lot for content creation is organizing, is writing down, is scheduling, is planning. So we do have a full process of like Excel sheets with the different things of what we want to launch later. An idea we have, we put in this bucket, then we plan when we should release and why we should release at that point. So for example, a good example is there is a guide to draft that we're going to release soonish. It is already done for a while, but we're like, it makes no sense to release now. We should release as soon as a new set is about to come out. So it's understanding what is the right time, planning and visualizing. And I'm a very tactile person. So for me, because I'm an anxious person, I need to visualize those things. So having post-its with ideas, having post-its that I can see, mark as complete, mark as published.
Yeah,
right?
we have so many spreadsheets. We're actually sharing
because it feels good to complete. It feels good to check mark. And
we're probably maybe too far on one end of the spectrum. But yeah, I think like as I said earlier, like I think consistency is such an important thing. Like if someone can expect, you know, a new LorcanaChats every Friday, then they can kind of build that into their routine. For us, we're a little bit more fluid just because of the type of content we do, but we always try and have a minimum of one video a week. For a lot of last year, we were doing 2 videos a week, and it became unsustainable for us. So now we're kind of like one every 5 or 6 days is kind of the cadence we're going to go for. But I think just like having that long-term plan, because it's very easy, I think with anything in life, if you don't know what the next thing is you're going to do, then it's a lot harder. So we have like a bucket of ideas. It's like, we know we want to do this, this, and this. And we know that every set we can do like a guide to the starter decks. We can do gameplay with the starter decks. We know all of those things. So we have a spreadsheet per set. And it's literally, these are the videos we're releasing this set. And we try and do a few guides because those are content that people are always going to be searching for.
Evergreen content.
Like a lot of our subscribers come through our how to play video. So they pick up Lorcana, they search how do I play Lorcana, they watch our video, and then they stick around for the rest of the content. And I know that doesn't make sense for every content creator, but we have those guides to kind of bring people to the channel. Some of them will stick around, which is awesome. And then for those kind of players, we have things like the gameplay, we have the box openings, we have the like reviewing the different cards. So all of that is planned meticulously. Probably too much.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
but not
it's a bad thing. I mean, that's awesome. It's, you know, I try to be as organized as possible with this channel. You know, but there's always stuff always slips through the cracks, and there's always, you know, random stuff that comes up. But you know, and that's one thing that must be nice for y'all is to be able to have, you know, y'all producing the content together, to be able to, you know, have you in one place and, you know, be able to just sit across from each other all the time. And, you know, it makes it a little bit easier, but yeah, definitely the coordination of stuff can be tricky, even if it's just y'all doing the content. You know, it's a lot of behind the scenes work. So you mentioned the sustainability of things. I'm curious, can you kind of talk to me about how you came to the conclusion of how much content you wanted to create? You know, was it like right out of the box you were trying to do one every day? Or because I know a lot of creators have that problem. They start off and they're like gung-ho about it, and they're going to do, you know, one video a day, or, you know, 3 a week or something, and then get burnt out really quickly.
We did. I think we did fail we did go through a lot of the burnout, as Charlie said. But one note that I think was still very valuable even though we might disagree a little bit. I think for the first year, in my head at least, I think I mentioned that at the beginning, it was a lot about catching up. Unfortunately, we were, as content creators for Disney Lorcana, we were almost a year behind the OG content creators, right? So for me, as a personal goal in my mind, we were like, we need to at least have more than one video per week because we have so much to catch up. We need to build the trust from the community, and again, pushing quality or whatever, right? Because my plan was I really have to put Inkborn Heroes in front of everyone's face as much as I can. I know that sounds horrible, right? But I approach it like that. It is a brand.
I mean, it's marketing. It's
exactly.
That's what you have to do.
Marketing.
Yeah,
and that's why I go for Facebook. I go for Instagram. Right? I'm trying to spread the information as much as we can.
And that's actually another tip I would have is market your content.
100%.
And I think both of us have like good marketing minds, and as Matheus said, like we will do a video, but we'll also think, how can we then cross promote this on Instagram and
Facebook?
Yeah, and I think some channels maybe aren't as good at pushing their content. They just like hit release on a video,
and
or
that's
a podcast.
Fine. And that's fine, right? If that's not your goal, right? But for us, we want the immediate immediate capture of people's attention, right?
Sorry, I interrupted you.
And I think because I also wanted, because I'm going back to another question of yours, right? But I think one thing that I lost my thought process now.
I'm so sorry.
but pretty much
it happens.
I think
the two videos
if you see all the videos that we do nowadays, or the majority of it, there's always a graphic accompanying. So I never post, or we never post a thumbnail of a video, and that's it. So every single video we do, we try to have like 2 or 3 images that I can use to grab people's attention via Facebook or Instagram. Why? Because we notice that, especially for Facebook, no one reads it. So if I put just a link of something, no one will read it. If suddenly that link is accompanied by 3 cool graphics that is talking about the video, so it's almost like a summary of the video in some ways. It could be like a deck list that looks pretty, or it could be like a graph of the ink curve or whatever. So that's a strategy I learned very quickly. And we were looking, okay, this is what's going to attract people to now actually want to click it. And not only that, if something looks pretty, they might not even care about, they will reshare. And then when they reshare, the link is there because the link goes together. Yeah. So suddenly the link is spreading. I know that sounds very marketing. And another thing as well is 11:30 a.m. I'll say that. I'll throw this out there. We always try to release our videos right before lunch because people will be at work. Gonna grab their sandwich, and now they're like watching us as their lunch.
It's like, all right, I got an hour to sit down and listen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a lot of strategies. But to your point, going back to your question, I'm sorry for that because I'm talking a lot. But back to your question about the quantity of work, we pushed very hard for the first year with 2 videos. I think we got to a point now that I feel like our presence as Inkborn Heroes is known a little bit in the community. So now we can try to care more for our health and be more aware that it could be burning us out. That's why we're going back to likely a video per week.
Like on my end, there was never, we wanted to do 2 videos a week, but it was just, we were 2 people and we felt like we could each do 1 video a week. But kind of one of the interesting things about the channel growing is there becomes a lot more tasks you have to kind of take care of that you weren't taking care of before. Like before we didn't get comments on the videos. Now we get comments on the videos. So we had to like spend time replying to comments. And before we were literally doing 50-50 the video editing. But then as the Instagram started getting bigger, more of Matheus's attention was over on the Instagram. So then more of the video editing like was falling on my side. So like we have this spreadsheet and there was one point where it was like 12 videos in a row, all edited by me. And I was just like, Matheus, I can't sustain this anymore. Yeah. We need to like find more of a balance. And like, it's funny because it's almost being victims of our own success to an extent. Like it was just so many more things to have to deal with. But now like really we took time over Christmas. We were like on vacation for a few weeks and we kind of reevaluated and we were like, we definitely want to keep doing this, but we need to do this in a way that's sustainable and kind of now we're going to slow the pace down just a little bit. There'll obviously be times where like, especially during release week, where we end up doing a load of videos.
That's never going to change.
But
we want to review season. So that's okay.
Yeah, because I think it is scary, like burning out of anything, because you can so easily lose your passion. And I think like it's something people should be aware of. And it goes hand in hand with like seeing like the performance of videos, and it can be a vicious cycle. So I definitely advise people to be careful with that kind of
For
stuff.
sure, for sure. You still have to enjoy what you're doing,
Yeah,
right? But I
exactly.
think,
Oh
as you
yeah.
said, consistency is key. You just need to define what is your plan of consistency. Yeah,
Yep.
pretty
Yep.
much. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And I'm a heavy consumer of Lorcana content too. I mean, obviously, but it is nice to have that consistency to be like, okay, I almost said this week in ink. No, the Illumiteers,
Yeah,
coming on Monday nights. You've got Lorcana After
exactly.
Dark on Tuesdays and Thursday.
So
You
yeah,
know what to expect, and you know that you're going to have that new content.
yeah,
And those friends, those Lorcana community friends, will be there to talk to you, and
yeah.
share, something new, something funny, something interesting. I love the diversity of all the content too.
Yes, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not just gameplay videos. It's not just, interviews. There's all sorts of different kinds of ways that you can come at the content,
yeah.
that this community produces. And
Yeah, there's a
finding
lot
those
of
ones that,
creativity.
you really like is
Yeah,
really, is key. But
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like that I saw a thread on Reddit and someone had said like content creation in the Lorcana space is awful. Everyone's just looking at links on
yeah, I saw
Dreamborn and
that one.
reviewing
Yeah.
them. And I actually I had to reply and I was like, look, like you're just not looking in the right place. Like if you want
Mhm.
gameplay, like check out like Lorcana Academy. If you want deck tech, check out Steadfast. If you want like more interesting kind of stuff to do with content creators, check out the Lock Keepers in. Like there's such
Mhm.
an amazing diversity, and yes, there are people who are looking at that at decks that did well in the tournament, and I think there is a need for that in the community. But
That's
there's also a need to have Lorcana chats where it's like actually
Yeah.
getting to know the people behind the
yeah,
content. I think that's
exactly.
that's really interesting, and I think that there's an audience for that. And like as you said, the Illuminati like exposing the artists and getting people familiar with like the people actually creating the art of the game. So it is amazing the diversity, and I do encourage people to look deeper if they're not able to find it because there are
And it's all
so many
sorts,
great
right? Even
channels.
if
Yeah,
you want to feel good, you go like swing Rebecca Quest, right? On Instagram. It's like more
yeah,
about the care and caring about everyone. So there's all levels. Box openings, you go to someone
yeah.
specifically for that as well.
Yeah, because
I do think there's so
I've got
much
to say when
actually.
I search Pokemon, if I like when I'm doing research to see what's happening in the Pokemon space, it's just like every video is the same, and it's the same
Yeah.
with like some of the other trading card games. So I think like as a like community of content creators, I think Lorcana is actually the best,
Yeah.
even if people can't find it all the time.
Not biased at all, of course.
Not biased at all, right?
Oh, that's awesome. So we talked a little bit about the community. I'm curious, what is y'all's favorite part of being like in the Lorcana community itself?
I think for me, it's actually something you touched on earlier, and it's just about like how welcoming and diverse a community it is. Like I think you hear this feedback a lot from people who've come from other TCGs into Lorcana, just like how welcoming it is, how like friendly it is. And I think it's for lots of reasons. I think it's because it's a Disney game. So there's a lot of people who are Disney fans who are picking up TCGs for the first time, like us. But I
Mhm.
also think it is the community itself. Like it's a very grassroots thing. And I think, like I mentioned Katie at the Law Keepers in already, we did a podcast with her talking about diversity and
Mhm.
just like how it was actually like the community who was making it positive, and when there were kind of like negative interactions, should we say, like the community was quick to kind of respond to
Mhm.
those and make people know that that's not okay. And I think that for me has been really amazing, like being able to build our own little part of that community as well. And as Matheus said, it's like people resonating with us because we're a gay couple, but also like people with like neurodivergent people have also kind of come to that part of the
Mhm.
community as well. And I just love that no matter who you are, no matter what your walk of life is, you can just come sit down and play some princesses.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, for me the same. I think is the people. For me, a big shock because we never know what to expect, right? With the
Yeah,
comments and stuff. A big shock for me is that we can probably count in one hand how many negative comments we receive on YouTube. I would have expected so much more if you think
yeah,
about
Mhm.
it as a trading card game.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe because we touch less meta, so I think
Yeah.
people are less aggressive in this sense.
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
when
yeah.
there were more ill-intended comments, I feel like we replied in a polite way,
Yeah.
and they'll reply back apologizing. So it's like, oh my God, they're apologizing. I never
Yeah.
imagined someone would apologize. So it's crazy to think, because that is the community we have really for the game, for this type of game, right? That is it's very exciting. It's very nice to know about why they came to this Lorcana as well.
Mhm.
There's always so much magical behind it. It's either their relations when they were young with their families, right? Like the relationships and stuff. So it's always so interesting. I don't know. For me, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I couldn't imagine us doing this if it wasn't that community. For example, we'll probably have given up long ago. Yeah.
Yep, totally agree. I think I have not been a part of the TCG community before. This is my first TCG too.
Okay.
But being a part of like video game communities and stuff in the past, you're kind of like, I mean, you guys know more than anybody, I'm sure. There is more than enough toxicity out there. Yes.
Absolutely.
And when you kind of first started getting into a community, you're like, okay, can I expect that kind of thing? And then you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like, okay, am I just missing it, or is it just not there? And then after a while, you get a little bit more comfortable, and you're like, okay, all right, I think this is going pretty well. This is good. Yeah.
But that's a really good point, because even when you talk about the game industry, right, the video game industry, one example is we did work on Disney Infinity, right? So we worked in different types of games and genres. Disney Infinity is the Disney brand, right? And in that sense, I feel like even when there were communities online, the forums and stuff, it was always so positive as well. It was so hard to find anything negative, even though it was the games industry. So you would expect something worse, right? So I think it's just that brand coming up with Disney already attracts people that are probably nicer in a way, right?
It seems like it, yeah.
It definitely does.
So it's as long as there's Disney there, I think we are a little bit more protected, or at least I would like to believe so.
For the most part.
For most part. But it was an amazing experience as much as this Lorcana, I suppose, with Disney Infinity as well. But that's interesting.
So is there anything you think we as a community can be doing better?
Ooh. Oh, that is a good question. I mean, I think one thing that I noticed is that I think a lot of the conversations around Lorcana pertain to like the competitive side of it. So it's like, we're going to go and do a set championship, or, we're going to go and do a DLC. And I think like creating more space for casual play, social play, kind of playing non-competitively. I know Rebecca Quest is a big proponent of this, like just, making a crazy deck and taking it to League and just having fun with it. And I hope that there's kind of more of that. And actually, I know your new series is looking at more of those fun decks.
I wasn't going to say anything, I promise. No cross promotion here, so
we're excited. No pressure.
So I'm glad you're bringing that. And I think I saw there's a Discord server now for more casual decks.
Just started up. I think a soft launch technically, but yes, it's going pretty strong actually.
That's great. That's cool. Yeah, because that's like some of the most fun we have now is playing with the janky decks. And actually, like, so we do themed deck gameplay videos. So we're like, today we're going to have Peter Pan take on Alice in Wonderland. And we just build a deck as best we can with the card pool that's available. And usually they just like play terribly. But that's actually some of the videos that get the most engagement.
It's the most fun. It's the ones that
you're just having fun.
They're the ones, sadly, that get the least views, but it's the ones that like people really, really respond to. And like I hope that as we go on, we have more kind of support at the like local game store level for different ways to play that aren't just bringing like the latest meta deck. And I'm really glad to see the community kind of content creators kind of starting to approach that side of things as well.
So, but I think what would be cool is not just from the community itself, but on Ravensburger side, right? Imagine if there was an equivalent to the set championship, but target more for the social side, right? I don't know what is the formula, obviously, because as soon as you have a prize, it could turn into something competitive, right? But there is a space for sure. I think that's what we're lacking, is literally showing to people, even the people that are shy, to join a trading card game for the first time, something to say, look, we have as much importance as competition
Yeah.
to the social. And I think we're getting there. I do think that there's a lot of plans on the pipeline from Ravensburger to touch that subject, right? But
yeah, because
that's what I
they
miss.
have in the organized play guidelines, like people who run the leagues properly, it's like if someone gets 5 princesses out on the board in a game, then they can get an extra point. And like I hope we can get more formats like that where it's like you can only play with like cards that have the pirate classification, or you can only play with princesses, or something like that. And as Matheus said, more organized and more structured and more supported by Ravensburger. But I think even the community doing it at a kind of like a grassroots level is really, like, for me, it's really, really exciting to see.
The game is very new. We need to remember, right? Ravensburger, that's their first trading card game as well, right? So there's a lot of learning. I actually think, as much as I can be very vocal about a lot of things, I also appreciate all the good things that they are doing as well. So I'm very excited actually to see what's coming next.
Yeah, if you ever want me to bring my alien deck onto your
alien deck. Oh, all right, I might have to look at that. That sounds interesting. Haven't heard of that one. Yeah, no, I'm currently working on an inventor deck. It's not great, but
yeah, it's interesting. That's the fun. That's fun.
Yeah, no, it's super cool to see. So many LGSs doing like what you're talking about, where it's like, we're going to do something fun with it versus, everybody just bring a meta deck every single time. Because that's super discouraging for people that are new, especially.
Yes.
Like you said, y'all started with starter decks. You sat down across the table with somebody with a meta deck and just got wiped off the board,
shuffling their hand like furiously.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a whole different topic. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, you want times where people can come and play casual decks and play decks that are not like killers, because it's not fun to just get beat every single time. You want to have fun. You want to win every once in a while. I mean, some people play just because they love playing, and that's great. They don't really care if they win or lose, but I mean, it's still a game. You still want to win every once in a while, even if it's not at a DLC or, championships or something like that. And so it's cool to see. And I totally agree. I think, having something a little more formalized to say, maybe they have a DLC and then they have, a kind of a casual event, off on the side. And it is the same kind of things at League, you get, you get tickets for reaching certain achievements or, stuff like that. So it's not quite the big prize, if you get the, the promo cards or the, the golden Mickey at the end or anything like that. But, it still gives you something fun to play for, but that everybody else there is just there to have fun with it. You don't have the professionals coming over from the Pokemon community and the Magic community that are all ruthless about it, and they're like, I gotta win at this new game, no knocking on them. I mean, if that's how they want to approach the game,
of course.
That's absolutely their prerogative for it. But yeah, there is so much support for like just general casual gameplay. And I think, to your point with the Disney IP and bringing that into the game, I think, Disney does attract a certain kind of person. There's people, I mean, Disney obviously has been around for forever. And so you have this multi-generational thing. So you have, people that are a little bit older that are coming in to play Lorcana. You have little kids that are coming in to play Lorcana. You've got so many different kinds of people. And you want to make sure that, not all of them obviously are going to be that super competitive mindset. So yeah, having options like that would be awesome. I'd love to see it. And I think, Ravensburger has proved that they're pretty responsive to the community. They got immediate feedback after the Atlanta DLC and started, changing things and modifying them all through the different DLCs. And, from everybody I talked to, the Seattle one was great. It was a great event. It still had its flaws, obviously, but every event does. And then we just had the North American Championships, which from the pictures looked crazy.
It looked amazing.
Looked amazing.
Yeah.
I want to
I
go.
had some pretty serious FOMO about that one. I was sitting at
Yeah,
home watching the streams and stuff,
You
yeah,
should
and I
go to
was
the
just
Worlds
like,
one for sure.
I
yeah. We'll
know
see what worlds.
if we
Yeah.
knew when it was,
Yeah, when at one point when it
uh,
happens, we should go
Yeah,
yeah,
towards.
some
Yes.
one of these days, yeah.
yeah,
No, it was really cool to see, something on that level. That Ravensburger was like, okay, we're stepping it up even another level on
yeah,
top
yeah.
of the DLCs and everything. Um, so yeah, I can only imagine what Worlds is going to look like. That's going to be kind of crazy. Um, you said y'all didn't get to go to the championships though, right?
We
So we did
didn't.
the DLC. So
Yeah,
we
we
only
did.
went to the Toronto one
Yeah,
in Canada,
Okay.
yeah, because
but the
it's just down the
championship,
road from
no,
us.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Uh,
funnily enough, we were in Europe at the time of the EU
Championship.
championship,
oh
and
yeah.
we were like this close to going to it because we were on holiday with my family, and then we were going to visit some friends, and we could have made like a stopover for a couple of days in Paris, and in the end, we just couldn't get the numbers to work,
We're
but
so
we were this
close.
close,
I
and
was
then
like, ah.
if I think had California been announced a little bit sooner and the details had
Yeah.
been given a bit sooner, we would have
The same for
absolutely.
the European, right? If
Yeah,
we knew
it's just
sooner.
it's hard being in Canada for anyone who's not in
Yeah.
Canada. Traveling anywhere from Canada is just
So
always
expensive,
expensive,
so expensive.
and
Hmm.
the closer it is to the date, the yeah, just
Yeah.
forget about it.
We
So
almost saw the Rio Great Luminary because in Europe they have the actual
Oh
setup,
yeah,
right?
with the actual 3D
Like, I
set
want
and
that one
everything.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It's
close.
so
yeah,
cool. Yeah. Well, I did see they had the I don't know if it's called this officially, the lore book that, it's got it
yeah,
looks like the characters
Yes,
hopped out of the page. They had
yeah.
that at the
yeah.
It
championships.
It
yeah,
was a cardboard one though.
it looked really good
Well,
for the
yeah,
front.
but I
Like someone,
mean, it was more
It's
than
better.
just the
It's good. It's good.
posters
I'm
like they
sorry.
have, with the other ones.
So for
Uh,
Europe they 3D printed
yeah,
for North
yeah.
America as a cardboard.
The
It's
giant 3D
still
printed.
amazing. It's actually really cool.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and I only expect it to, to improve over time. Like you said,
For
yeah,
this
sure,
is
for sure.
really early on. It's easy to
Mm.
forget us being in it day to day and being like completely
Mhm.
immersed in the game and the community and everything. It's easy to forget that it's, a year and 3 or 4 months old or something like that. Um,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I should probably remember that,
something like
write it down.
that.
Um, but no, it's cool to see, Ravensburger really putting the investment in on this game. It's not like, yeah, we're just going to print sets and, people can play with them and that's it, You have them there at the events
Yeah,
playing Pack Rush, sitting across the table. You have the game
yeah,
developers sitting there playing with random people, that are at these events because they want to be there. They
yeah,
want to be involved with things and
yeah.
be in the community. And it's really cool to see.
Mhm.
So I look forward to Worlds. I look forward to, whenever they start ramping up the next DLC season again. Maybe they'll have more in
Yeah,
Canada
yeah,
this next
yeah.
time around, so you guys can have more options than
I hope
just,
so.
just the
Yeah,
one.
at least more on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
much
yeah,
more.
yeah.
Like even
Yep,
New York's not too far from us. So.
That's true. Yeah.
yep, yep. Well, cool. So I do like to talk to my guests about the game itself, and where they think the future of the game might be going and what they would like to see in the future of the game. I know we're starting to
You can
get
start.
some
Yeah,
Arcasia's Island, stuff for the
yeah,
next
yeah.
set that's
Yes.
coming up, but I'm always curious. I like to get other people's perspectives on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I would like to see some more powerful cards. Like I think the power level of the cards, except for like maybe Diablo from Ursula's Return, have all been pretty steady so far. I want to see like something a new version of Rapunzel that's better than Rapunzel gifted with healing. Like I just want to see like some really impactful cards that kind of really shake up the game because I think we've had the same kind of decks doing well. Like Ruby Amethyst just wins everything still. So I'd
Yeah.
love to see a card that makes like Amber Sapphire, like just an amazing deck. So that's something like I really hope for in the future of like the
Mhm.
actual game itself. And then like around the game, I think just like more transparency and more like forward communication about things like the fact that we don't have a date
Mhm.
for worlds. Like I know the vast majority of the community right now are really struggling with that because everyone is like there are people not booking holidays because they want to know if they should factor in worlds and things like that. And I think just kind of being a lot more upfront with that. I know logistically it's a lot of stuff on the side of Ravensburger planning those things, but just like give us a month, please.
Yeah,
Like just give us something.
exactly.
So I think having more of that so that people can kind of know what's next. Because right now I think everyone's just in a bit of limbo. And then I think the other thing is just an official judges program. So I think one of the things coming out of the North America Championship is there was some maybe let's say controversies around the judging of the event, and I know there have been like some judge calls at past events that maybe people haven't agreed with, and I think just having something kind of like the Pokemon judge program. I don't know too much about it. I think it's the Pokemon Professor program where people can actually be kind of go through something that's very formalized and by the developer by Ravensburger, so that we kind of can standardize the processes more. So it's not two different judges at two different events calling it two different ways, because everyone has a different kind of perspective on these things. I'd like to see something more structured. Yeah.
Okay. For me, to be honest, again, it's hard for me without, because I don't have a background for any trading card game. If I'm talking about the game itself, but if I want to be very drastic, very radical, imagine how amazing it would be, and it will probably break the whole game. But imagine how amazing it would be if they release a new color, a new ink type, like entirely with its own profile. So it's not control, it's not discard, something completely new. Again, it's probably too early. There's a lot to balance to do, so it's probably too early. But that'll be amazing, even more than Duo Ink. I guess they can do a lot of things with the rumors of what a Duo Ink can be. But I'm literally talking about a new ink type entirely. I think that would be amazing.
Some people have asked for like colorless ink so that it can go in any deck.
Yeah, that is cool as well. Yeah, but for Acacia's Island in particular, there got to be something to do with the animals, obviously, right? Learning new tricks.
Yeah.
I am telling Charlie, this is probably not going to happen because I'm horrible in guessing, but imagine if there is any companion cards, and the companion cards are the pets, something that you attach to your card.
That's what I think. Yeah.
But you're like attaching to cards, almost like an item, but it's not an item, it's a companion. And they give you an extra buff just by attaching to it. So I have my animal companion. I think that would be super, super cool. Something along those lines.
I mean, I think about all the animal sidekicks, you know.
Exactly. All about the sidekicks. That's it. Yeah.
And one more thing that I would like to say, because I'm playing a lot of Pokemon Pocket at the moment, is I would love to see some different like pack structures. Like give us some more alternate arts that aren't enchanters or legendaries. Because like I think the pack opening experience, first of all, I think the way that Ravensburger designed the cards is actually fantastic. Like I look at a Magic card and I couldn't tell you if it was like the highest rarity or the lowest rarity. Whereas Lorcana, they've done a very good job, and like the actual experience of opening a pack, you know the structure, you know what's coming, you know there are going to be the good cards at the end. The symbols are very, very clear. So I love that. But yeah, just more variety. Like I think it's getting a little bit still now, the pack opening experience. Like
almost like a mid rarity. That's what I mean, between legendary and enchanted.
Yeah, and just like different versions of cards,
different art versions,
different treatments on it.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing. Yeah, but what about you,
I like
Chris?
the way. Well, oh my gosh. Uh-oh.
Sorry,
put me on the spot. No, I'm the one asking the questions here. No, no, like we were saying just a second ago, I would love to see some kind of like a companion kind of thing. I think that would be really cool. There's lots of possibilities. Think about all the stuff that came with locations, where they kind of were a different type. I looking around, I hadn't really seen something like that with other TCGs. I mean, that was like that operated the same way in the game. There's some similar kind of things in other games, but yeah, I basically agree with everything you guys said, honestly. I think it's interesting to me, and somebody said this, that, we went all the way to have championship level events without an official judges program. And that's when you think about it, yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. You should have some standardization, before that time, but there's a lot going on. I understand that. Ravensburger, this is their first time at this. PPG has been helping them out a lot, over here in the US. I think they're handling the EU stuff too, aren't they? I kind of forget.
No, EU is a different group.
It's Fanfinity.
Yeah.
Is that right?
But
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
handle Toronto. They did handle Canada,
Yes, yeah.
but in
Yeah.
Europe, it's a
Okay.
different company. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Um, but yeah, it's just it's interesting to see how this stuff is all progressing.
Yeah.
And there's so many things, with the release of the new sets, I think we've kind of settled into a groove with that kind of stuff because we know when to expect new sets. We kind of know how the
Yeah.
reveals are going to go. We know, how we can get it and everything. Um, but outside of that, then it's just like, okay, how do we improve the other stuff about Lorcana?
Mhm.
It's not, we've got the card part down. We've got the gameplay part
Yeah,
down. We're
yeah.
good on that. So there's all sorts of other things there. It'll be interesting to see the growth of the game over the next year.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I don't see it losing any momentum, if anything, picking up more as time goes on. I mean, games like Magic have, 29-ish years on Lorcana, and look how
Yes, yeah,
big it
yeah,
is
yeah.
now. So,
Well,
but
it's
yeah.
funny. I was watching Leonhardt video. He was visiting a local game store in his area. I think he's in Texas somewhere. And he
Mhm.
was asking the local game store owner like, what are the biggest games? And he said, "Oh, it's Pokemon, it's Magic, and then it's Lorcana." And that's something I've heard from a lot of stores now. Lorcana is like kind of leapfrogging the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the One Pieces. So
Yeah.
it's definitely getting up there. And
And
all
they're
of
fast
this
as
with
well.
with minimal marketing, I would say, from
Yeah.
from
Really
Disney and from
surprising.
Ravensburger. Like,
Mm.
yeah, so they've obviously they're saving those pennies so that they can, I'm sure, market the heck out of it as we go. But
Hmm.
I think seeing them like give Lorcana cards out when you go and see Moana 2, like that's super
Yeah.
cool. Like a
Yep.
kid who is gonna see this card and be like, oh, I wanna play with this card. How do I play with
Yes.
this card? So it's
I
really
I
heartening to
couldn't
see that.
resist.
There you
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
So cool.
I was like, we got to go this particular weekend, guys. Okay. And they were like, why? Like, just trust
No
me.
reason. Just-
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, not to
Yeah,
derail.
super cool.
Yeah. No, I think that was it. I think that was the end of
Yeah,
my
it's the
thought.
equivalent to
Yeah.
us getting the Mewtwo when we went to
Yes,
Pokemon when we were
the
younger,
Pokemon
right?
movie.
So
Yeah,
it's such a
yeah.
good strategy, like, and it keeps in our minds, right? We remember this to this
Yeah,
day.
I think
Yeah.
I've got that Mewtwo card
Yeah.
somewhere in my mum's
So they're
house.
doing the right thing for sure. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Well, cool. Well, so I appreciate you guys so much for being on. I'm going to end with three questions that I realized I didn't send you before, so it's going to kind of put you on the spot.
Okay.
I asked these three
Oh my God.
questions to all of my guests, so if you've watched the show or listened before, you know what to expect. But okay, so first question for each of y'all: favorite ink and card right now? It could
Right
be
now,
art,
okay.
mechanics, whatever
I
for the
can answer
card.
that if you're
I can
thinking.
no, I know as well, but you go first.
Okay. I'm so sure of the answer. So they are not from the same ink, funny enough. But my favorite ink
Okay.
is Amethyst. I just love
Okay.
all the sorceries, everything that comes from Amethyst, and obviously the gameplay. But my favorite card ever, and it's a combination of art and gameplay, is the Prince Eric
Expert
expert
helmsman.
helmsman. I have a hard time saying
Yes. Yep.
helmsman. That's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
That's a
red,
good one.
but then purple. That's my favorite.
yeah.
Card.
You built a deck like a ruby amethyst with him in it, just
Yeah.
to like
Just
because
to
you wanted
use
to
him. I
play
was like,
it.
Just to be able to,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice.
And
Nice.
me, a favorite ink color is amber. I
Mhm.
don't know why. I just feel like I have this natural affinity with amber. I love amber cards mechanically. And my favorite card is Rapunzel gifted with healing. My first
nice.
deck, once I stopped
Classic.
playing with my starter deck, was Amber Steel. And
Mhm.
I've always, when I've played it since then, I've always had four Rapunzels, even when she was incredibly expensive.
Yeah,
But
she
yeah,
was for
I
a
just
while.
love it. When we were opening first chapter stuff, for whatever reason, Rapunzel was the card we would always get, the legendary. And when she
Mhm.
was like $90 Canadian, we were just like having to sell it every time
So
just
we'll
because,
Yeah.
sell. So I would
yeah.
make Charlie sell every time,
So
and
I
then we
did,
had to rebuy again.
so I think because I couldn't have her at first,
That's probably it. She
Yeah.
could never have
Yeah.
it, so now he's in love with
so she's
her.
my
Hey,
favorite
it's a
card.
great card. I
It
It's a
mean,
is a
great
good
card.
it still shows up all the time. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Next question. Favorite Disney movie and why?
Go first now.
Oh, this is hard. This is really hard. It's actually, I would say, Basil the Great Mouse Detective, and I just made
Okay.
Matheus watch it for the first time, probably like 3 or 4 months ago. And I've got to say, it is still like such a fantastic film. Like the story is amazing. Ratigan is probably the best Disney villain for me. World's Greatest Criminal Mind is the best Disney song. And a close second is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I'm really hoping we get some Hunchback cards in the game.
Yeah.
I would think we would eventually. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, hope so. I think for me it's Beauty and the Beast. I have two sisters. We love singing all the Disney songs when we were young. Traveling in the car, we'll be singing between cities. And I think that one was in my memories, like remembering going with my parents and my sister. So I think it got stuck. But also I just love all the setting and everything. It's very very magical. So yeah. But there's so many good ones. It's so hard.
I know. And I apologize. I forgot that on the list. Usually I give people a little bit more time to prepare for that one. But
I'll probably poke you later and say, I want to change my answer now.
Well, and there's some people that, I asked that question and they're like, well, when I was a kid, it was this. Now that I'm an adult.
That is true. That's a good point.
Because there's such a variety,
That's actually a really good point, because I don't want to throw one more name because it's not very spoken about, is Turning Red. The 3D one,
right? The red panda,
the panda. I think that movie is like fantastic in so many levels. The message of the movie and so on. I think
and the fact it's set in Canada. How many
how
many Disney films?
That's true. That's true.
It is good. That movie is good. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But I will stick my answer to Beauty and the Beast.
But I actually think that's a Pixar film.
No, it's Disney.
It is? Okay.
Is it Pixar? Oh god, I'll be wrong.
Because it came out at the same time as
Encanto. I think it's Disney.
And Encanto was Disney.
Oh,
you might be right.
Matheus is looking it up. That's the next
question. Carry on. Go to the next question.
Well, actually, the last question is probably the easiest question to answer. So, where can people find y'all and your content?
Okay, so yes, our primary source of content is YouTube. We're YouTube Inkborn Heroes. After that, we're also on Instagram at also Inkborn Heroes. And I think you can find us on Twitter and Blue Sky. We don't tend to use it that often, but we're also there as Inkborn Heroes. And we have a Discord server if you would like to join it.
And the Facebook page also.
And the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And funny enough, we also have an official website.
Yeah.
So we actually have a website.
Right.
Not everyone knows. It's inkbornheroes.com.
Yeah.
And the reason we have that is because of the graphics, right? So we like doing our card tracker. So if you want to see high resolution of all those things, if you go to the website, you can get everything.
Because people said it was too hard seeing it on Instagram and having to zoom in.
And having to zoom in. Yeah.
So it's also
you lose the quality.
Exactly. So if you want everything, go
to like 4,000 by 4,000 pixels. So you could see it from the moon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Matheus, was Turning Red a Pixar film or a Disney film?
I think it's Pixar.
Okay.
I think it's Pixar. No. Where is it? Pixar, produced by Pixar for Walt Disney Pictures. So
okay.
Anyway,
we'll allow it.
You can cut that part if you want.
No, that's the fun part.
It's coming to Lorcana soon, so
is it? Pixar.
Pixar,
Pixar,
sure. We'll make the cut as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys so much. I had a blast talking. Thanks for taking some time this evening and spending it with me and just talking. I love it.
Honestly, we are very thankful from the bottom of my heart. Honestly, those conversations, and because we see each other online, right? But we never have the chance to talk with so many content creators. So when we have chances like this, it feels so special, right?
Absolutely.
Getting to know each other.
Thank
you so much.
We don't spend that much time yapping, I think, on our channel. So it's always amazing to get to yap with other people.
And I apologize for talking so much. So bear with me, people.
No,
I like talking a lot.
Did not. You did not.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And we'll see you around the community.
Yeah,
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you liked what you heard, make sure to subscribe and rate or like us on your platform of choice. If you'd like to reach out to the show, you can email us at lorcanachats@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter or X at LorcanaChats, the podcast at podcast.lorcanachats.com, or just lorcanachats.com. We love feedback on the show, and let us know if there's anyone you'd like to hear from in the Lorcana community. See you next time.